the white helmets, okay, you guys remember them from the debunked Syrian chemical attacks and the false flag attempts there against saying that Bashar al-Assad was gassing his own people, which was proven to be false. Multiple journalists on the ground detailed that, as well as the OPCW had to admit it. And they're one of the extensions of the State Department for investigating, war crimes or situations where things are a little bit in the gray zone. But so according to Russia, the white helmets have been deployed to Ukraine for a false flag operation job. And this is from RT, but it was directly from the Russian government. So the Kiev, according to them, Kiev is plotting a false flag attack with weapons of mass destruction to frame Moscow. A senior Russian diplomat alleged this. And they are involving these weapons of mass destruction in their plans. And this was said by Dmitry Polyansky. For that purpose, instructors of the notorious Syria-based White Helmets group have already been deployed to Ukraine, is what he said to reporters. He said that over the weekend, these allegations that were raised by the head of the Russian Radiation, Chemical and Biological Protection Force, Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, who said the supposed plans harbored by the Kiev regime include 3 scenarios ranging from the false flag attacks on civilians to tactical small-scale use of WMDs and open deployment of such weaponry on the battlefield. This is what we went over yesterday quite quickly. So just to reiterate, the first one would be a false flag attack on civilians, which is the most likely. The second one would be a tactical small-scale use on WMDs, which is the second most likely. And then the last one, which is the least likely, would be like a full-on deployment on the battlefield. And they said to facilitate the allegedly looming false flag attack overseas, handlers of the Kiev authorities have sent instructors of the notorious White Helmets group to Ukraine. There is a well-known model in which such provocations involving chemical weapons are used in other parts of the world. First, a so-called chemical incident is organized, then pro-Western non-governmental organizations, especially the infamous White Helmets stationed nearby, quickly arrive on the scene and collect, in violation of all norms in the non-proliferation regime, questionable evidence, and then feed the story to the Western media. We all know this technology, Polyansky said, and the White Helmets group, as a quick reminder, were co-founded by the late British mercenary and presumed ex-intelligence officer James Labussiere, rose to international notoriety amid the years-long conflict in Syria, like I just mentioned. And they advertised themselves, of course, as the Syrian Civil Defense, and they operated exclusively, if you guys recall, in the assorted jihadist groups opposing President Bashar al-Assad's government. And they were involved in multiple purported, quote, chemical incidents that were blamed on the government and troops and used by the West, obviously, to carry out strikes and attacks in Syria and its allies. You should know this by now, but that's one of the main reasons they say, oh, this is very much mirroring that situation in Syria. A lot of journalists that were both particularly in Syria and are seeing what's happening with the false flag attempts by the West and NATO on Russia look at the similarities and are noticing a pattern here. And that's why it's such a big thing that it's being brought up. Remember that they were called the moderate rebels by Barack Obama and the administration, framing them as just being helpers when they were in fact one of the most lethal and violent groups that exist. Mm-hmm. Anything to say thus far? I'm just going to continue.
No, keep continuing, and I'll make some comments at the end about the White Helmets.
Sure. And so they're stressing that Moscow has zero plans to use any sort of weapons of mass destruction in Ukraine, and they don't possess chemical or biological weapons. So Russia doesn't even have the chemical or biological weapons, according to them. This is what they're saying. And so that using them doesn't make any sense. He said, what is the point of using them in Ukraine in an immediate vicinity of our border? we will get nothing that could not be achieved through conventional means, he said. So one thing I want to point out about that statement is he's entirely right, because it's kind of like, why, if Russia's winning, right, which members of the State Department and the Pentagon have already admitted that Russia is destroying Ukraine. So this is why they're sending more weapons. So if Russia's winning, why would it use chemical attacks near its border if it's winning? Like, why would it need to do that for what? It just doesn't make any logical sense. And if they're losing, then why are they being accused of doing all this damage and winning? Like, it's just like they're going back and forth, and then it's just not making sense. So I just have a quick video that I clipped out from RT where this deputy was actually speaking about how the U.S. has a clear record of doing this and using all three weapons before.
The US and its allies has a proven record of using the weapons of mass destruction allegations to assault sovereign countries which do not want to succumb to their pressure. There is a clear pattern of how the US-backed groups stage such provocations in other parts of the world. First, a so-called chemical incident is orchestrated. Then the pro-Western NGOs, in particular notorious White Helmets, who stay on alert nearby, expeditiously arrive to the venue and collect, in violation of all non-proliferation norms and procedures, shaky evidence. Then they feed this narrative to the Western media. We all know this methodology.
Just to remind you about the group, the White Helmets positions itself as a voluntary rescue organization. It receives broad support from the West, but it's been accused of having links with terrorist groups operating in Syria and Lebanon. Moreover, it's been repeatedly accused of producing staged videos about the use of chemical weapons, raising fears about possible provocations in Ukraine.
Bam.
Yeah.
So any comments on that? I mean, it's just basic, like, it just seems a lot of the strategies and tactics that were used by NATO and the State Department are being rehashed and used in this conflict.
It's the same playbook, right? And this is also what he was just talking about too. I think are the reasons what led up to why RT was taken off of so many places it was taken off of, because they had this type of, they go into the brief rooms, the very open, transparent kind of what they're going to do every step of the way, how they're going to treat prisoners, how everything, you know what I'm saying? Russia is very, very transparent about that. This is the reason why they censored that stuff. Because when you have a country like Ukraine, which is in the backyard of Russia, with a lot of ethnic speaking Russians, there's going to be a lot of leaky valves in your propaganda. So it seems like almost every single time they try to play the propaganda war, right, with a false flag attack, whatever, the leaky valve lets the information out and they get exposed every single time. So they failed so miserably when they completely try to censor RT and whatnot, because it doesn't make a difference. The information is still getting out. When somebody said that Putin lost the propaganda war, I said, no, he did not. No, he did not. He certainly did not. He just doesn't play the extra bullshit theatrics and puts himself out there like the United States does. He is very transparent what happens. And, this is no surprise to me, fam, that they keep getting caught time after time after time. It's like we get the playbook for the next, here's the next false flag that's coming in. We got here. Come on.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's very smart and astute that they're putting it out there every single time. Like every report from the Russian Ministry of Defense, every report from the Russian Foreign Ministry, they talk about, they'll talk about the tactical nature of things, logistics, like the weapons, how much food and how much aid they've sent, etc., how many people have died. But they give updates that can be seen by everybody. We don't have that here. If we were in a war, we wouldn't have those updates. It would be through like the Washington Post direct, it would be, but we wouldn't have like the Joe Biden address really like sit down and say, this is what's happening. This is like the play-by-play for one. So we don't have that. So it's interesting to see that, whether people believe it or not. You have to look at both ends of the spectrum, but when you look at the information coming from the West, they rarely have any evidence when they accuse them of false flags. There's like, they never have bodies, and if they do have bodies, they're like very, very weirdly found in weird situations where you have videos of, the only videos you have are of people being murdered in that way are from the Ukrainian Azov battalion or Nazi army. So it's just like they don't have these this order of logistics that's very organized. Whereas like Russia's like, oh no, this is how it is. This is what we have, and here are all the videos. No matter how hard they've tried to ban them, Telegram has been a great source of information where a lot of independent journalists have been able to put out their videos. And if you look at those videos and you look at what's in Western media, there's no comparison. I mean, it's a joke. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I want to mention is that the Azov, I think Azovstal, the area where the last area that's left in this Mariupol in that was, everywhere else because completely been wiped out of the Nazis and the Ukrainian army. Underneath those tunnels, there are still people there. And so the Russian Defense Ministry is saying that the people that are there are probably being used as human shields because there is no blockage of the corridors. So the corridors remain open, and they're not being
held
let
hostage.
out. Like,
Yeah.
So
They're being held
that's
hostage.
what's happening as an update.
The Telegram channel for Sputnik that puts that news out there is amazing and has some great stuff in there. If you haven't gotten a chance to go over there, ladies and gentlemen, and subscribe, please do. It's great. Putin has already said that they come out, they surrender, they'll be, let go, free. You know what I'm saying? They won't be held accountable or gunned down or anything, but they don't want to surrender because by surrendering, then you're admitting guilt of what was going on there. You're exposing yourself. So it's a standoff, and I don't know how it's going to end. You know what I'm saying? But, to protect their dirty secrets, and who knows what they've been destroying down below inside there this whole time of the standoff, right? So it's just one of those situations. It's kind of crazy. Who knows what they're going to damage or destroy back there, what evidence they're going to hide. But it doesn't look like it's going to end up in a good way. And about the white helmets, when you say the white helmets are coming into Ukraine, we understand now that they're going to even up the propaganda shit, because that's what the white helmets do. They're all about the propaganda arm of what happened with Bashar al-Assad and the chemical attacks and whatnot. It was the white helmets would appear on sites to, water the little boy's eyes down. He's like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And so we know that's going to be there. But it's not the first time, and America plays this game all the time. Do you have to show slide 33 yet? I haven't
shown that, no.
Okay. So I'm going to show something after you show slide 33, and it's kind of just going to blow your mind too as well. When we talked about it before, but proxies of the CIA and the American empire, they can be sent anywhere. Go ahead with 33, and then I will have slide 35 after.
So this is a video. If you can play it as the video on 33. It's just a video of the Israelis fighting with Nazis. And I just think it's funny. It's just a video of them, of the Jewish soldiers fighting with Nazis. And I think it's hilarious because, if you think about what Israel's doing to Palestinians, and I'm never not going to mention that, but they're exterminating Palestinians, much in the way, which is, and I don't say this to offend anybody, but much in the way the Azov began exterminating or hurting ethnic Russians and Slavs in the region. And that happened, of course, the last 8 years in the Donbass region. And of course, nobody said anything in Western media about that stuff. It wasn't covered. It wasn't talked about. And I find the parallels ironic, right? When you have somebody that is of Jewish descent fighting with, obviously, the Ukrainian army. Is every single person in the Ukrainian army a member of the Azov battalion? No, but by large, the people that are left there are. So,
because it's never been about religion or culture or ethnicity. It's been about empire. It's been about geopolitics. and they don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? Remember when the United States, government was, had sticking their nose in the Hong Kong situation? We had the advisory board made up from pretty much the NED. Then all of a sudden we see Ukrainian fascists from the Azov Battalion in Hong Kong, causing trouble. Here it is from Vice News. We covered this, fam, dude.
Yeah.
It's like they don't care. The United States intelligence apparatus will send their goons wherever to cause problems.
Right.
Now they're sending in the white helmets to help with the propaganda.
Right.
Oh, gee. What do we have to look forward next?
You could equate some of those white helmets because some of them in large have ties to, as mentioned in the video from RT, jihadist entities and literal radicals, not moderates, but actual radicals. The same way that the United States has funded the Azov Battalion and the Nazi forces in Ukraine by the way they admitted to it as much in 2019 in an attempt to label them as a terrorist organization, but then they quickly pushed that outside and tried to get people to forget about that. So